haggada, Yisa Bracha from Rabbi Yosef. Continuing the Seder, so we're coming to the point where you're going to pick up the Becher. You're gonna start to say the Hallel. And it says over there that you cover up the matzahs and you pick up the kos. We know that normally when you make kiddush, we have to cover the chalas, and that's halacha Shulchan Aruch that you cover the chalas when you make kiddush. To mention the reason, the Ramah says that we cover up the challah because in the pasuk when it talks about the shivas aminim, so the wheat chita sarah gefatena chita is more choshev and the shivas aminim more important than grapes and wine, and yet in the kiddush we make the bracha on the kiddush and not on the not on the not on the bread, not on the chita. Same thing as, of course, the seder with matzah. So therefore, we cover it up. So it shouldn't be embarrassing to the. It's like a busha to the chita. It's a choshev thing. So if we would like skip over it, it would be embarrassing to the bread and to the matzah. I heard once. Maisa was with Shraga Feibel, Mendelovich, when the great Mechanchim in America started Torah Masorah, a very wonderful Choshev Yid. He was once invited as a guest to somebody's house, and that was he came to the person's house. The person knew that the Shraga Feibel was a very important individual, so he wanted to, give him the honor when he comes to his house, what it's going to be. And the household, there was a lot of little children, and the wife was busy, taking care of all the kids and everything before Shabbos. And, it was a little bit like she was so busy taking care of all the little kids. Then they came in and they were going to make Kiddush, and she hadn't yet had a chance to cover up the challahs. And the person who invited Shraga Feibel to the house, he got really angry. He blew up at his wife. He started screaming at her, "Don't you know you're supposed to cover up the challahs of the Kiddush?" Shraga Feibel said he never saw anything like this. This was a classic case. He says when a person, tries to do the halacha, he doesn't understand the halacha. He says the halacha, you're supposed to cover up the challahs, not to embarrass the bread. And here he comes into this house as a guest, and as soon as he walks in, the Balabas is embarrassing his wife so much in front of him, in front of the whole family. Says he understood the halacha, not the spirit of the halacha. He didn't get it. So he says that this halacha that we have to know not to embarrass the bread. Of course, the bread doesn't have that much feelings. I never saw bread that really looked too much to be embarrassed. But the idea is, of course, maybe in the times of meals, we have to think about it more, not to embarrass another person, especially I think this year, when we're not in front of other people, we're not putting on a show to try to show other people how we're acting. We really got to be careful in our benod l'chaverei, not to, insult and not to embarrass. It's just, a personal thing. Most of us are having a Seder by ourselves, maybe a husband, wife, and we have to really concentrate on not to embarrass and to give covet, proper covet. And this especially, I saw some of the written in this point in the Haggadah. The Rabbi Yosef is quoted in some of the stories happened by him, several stories like this year. One was that when he was very old already, probably close to 100 years old, and his wife had passed away, he used to have grandchildren took care of him, and it was one used to wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning to learn. So the grandchildren, they took turns. I don't think every grandchild could get up 2 in the morning, but different ones came, they took care of him. And it was in the winter, and one had to help him put on his sweater. And, it was cold in his apartment, and then he's putting on the sweater. And the grandchild put on the sweater. He sort of made a mistake in one of the buttons. He didn't button it correctly. So, okay, he didn't button it correctly. Meantime, he went into the kitchen to get something, and he noticed as he's coming back, he was walking back into the room. He saw Rabbi Yosef was fixing the sweater, getting the buttons in the right place. But he noted that Rabbi Yosef didn't want to change the buttons when he was in the room. He didn't want to embarrass him that they buttoned wrong. And he said, Amaisa, that there was somebody came who used to take care of the Masada, the chasanas. He was one of the people who's in charge. There's something knows the technical things about a chasana, how it's supposed to go, and I arrange things. So he said, what if the Rav made a mistake in the ksuva, and he wrote the word the month Cheshvan instead of Mar Cheshvan. It was to write Mar Cheshvan, and he wrote Cheshvan. Is it Ma'akev? He told him, no, it's not Ma'akev. If you write Cheshvan, it's also okay. And he told him another thing. He said that, it's just b'diavad, it's okay. But the Rabbi Yosef pointed out that if you're in a chasana and the Rosh Hashiva, whoever is Masada Kedushin, and he writes Cheshvan instead of Mar Cheshvan, and there's plenty of time to tell him, it's corrected, and the chuppah is not starting yet, don't tell him, because he says that'll be embarrassing to the person, because it's a question that's really kosher, and you want to make a person feel bad in front of the people that maybe he didn't pay attention, or maybe he didn't know that halacha, or maybe forgot that halacha. So he says that's like b'diavad. To embarrass a person, that's like a b'diavad. Then one last ma'isa says that Rabbi Yoshev's father used to say a shir in a certain beis medrash in Yerushalayim, Me'eshorim. When he passed away, so the shir was given over to another great Talmud Chacham, Shalom Eisen, who I remember Shalom Eisen. He was a real great posek. We used to go to him for the checking out the Arba Minim. Used to be hundreds of people come and used to check him out. He was one of the Dayanim, the Achredis. He was a great Talmud Chacham, a posek, and a very sweet person. And he took over this year. And then some of the people, though, in this year, they wanted Rabbi Yosef to take over. It was his father's year. And they figured it was his father's year, give it over to the son. Why give it over to somebody else? I got to get Talmud Chacham, but why give it over to somebody else? So the question was raised, he wanted Rabbi Yosef to take back this year. But he thought, well, how can he do that if Shalom Eisen is saying this year? It would be embarrassing to Shalom Eisen. So the person who was asking the shel went to another going to Mechut, Rabbi Yosef Shem Zalman Auerbach. He said, he said, what should we do here? And the people, they want to hear the shir, especially. It's not really so much of a pagia because he's taking over his father's shir. He's Mala Mokko, his father. Person who could fit into the shoes of his father could take over the shir. Why not have Rabbi Yosef take the shir? Shlomo Zalman said, well, yeah, true. There's a lot of Botei Medrash in Yerushalayim. Shalom Eisen can go and say a shir in another beis medrash. And I mean, it's not there's not Jews that are learning in Yerushalayim, and they're not Botei Medrash. The people want to hear shir. We can go to other shir, really. And this was the beis medrash of Rabbi Yosef's father. So maybe he should just continue. So Rabbi Yosef said he wouldn't take it away from him, Rabbi Shalom Eisen, because he thinks that maybe the people who are in this shir now they would want to stay with him. They would want to go shalom. So he told the person who asked the shaila, he told him, you go into the other place where Shalom is going to say the shir. You have to organize and get other people to join with you in that other shir and stay there at least for half a year and make sure that shir is already established properly. And if you can establish that shir properly, so then you can come back. And you come back, you want to come back to my shir, it's okay. But I only wanted to make sure that if Shalom should have a kovadik shir. Because if you don't have a kovadik shir, I'm not taking over the shir. Because that's the Indian day. I thought about, you shouldn't embarrass the bread, shouldn't embarrass the matzah. What about not embarrassing people? We got to think about it, especially this year in our situation.